Hello and welcome back. There are some stuff left from day 11 which I'm going to cover in this video. So the first thing that I'm just going to configure is going to be an IP default gateway. This is crucial when you want to reach some other networks outside of your local domain. We are going to talk about local subnets, and stuff like that a lot, of course, in the next videos. But right now, what I'm trying to say is I have this part of the network. Let's say that there are some devices connected to switch 3 and switch 4, and switch 3 and switch 4 are access switches. Then they are connected to these two switches, switch 1 and switch 2, which are going to act as aggregation or distribution switches. And then I'm just going to have kind of a route to the outside network. There might be a router here which is going to help us to navigate to the other networks. So what I'm going to do is to configure some command which is called IP domain, IP default gateway. IP default gateway, of course, can be configured super easy, but there are some other ways to configure this, like I can configure a default route. A default route myself is going to act very much similar to this one. Now let's just go and do this in real world. Not so sure if this is going to work on my iOS device. We are going to experiment it. So if I just open this, right now I'm switch 1, and then I'm just going to go to here. I'm just going to type the username, if I remember correctly, that was Cisco, with the password of Cisco. And then I am in switch 1. Then I'm just going to go to here, and if I say show IP route, you can see that there is no route right now and there is no gateway set for me. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say I'm just going to have kind of an interface configured in here. My interface is going to be a VLAN interface. So how many VLANs do I have here? So if I say show VLAN, you can see that all I have is one specific VLAN, this one of type Ethernet, and the other VLANs that are here, they are registered. You cannot really use them. So you can use from VLAN 1 to 1001, and of course there are some other VLANs that we call them extended VLANs. We are going to talk about them later. So what I'm trying to say is, let's say VLAN 1 is going to be the one that I'm just going to create an interface for that. Now, why VLAN 1? By default, this is always present. You can configure this as your management VLAN. Most likely, you're not going to do that because of security things, and you're going to use some random number VLAN, and you're going to change the default VLAN to them. But let's say right now I'm using only VLAN 1 as the default gateway. So I'm just going to go to here, and then I'm just going to create an interface VLAN on here. If I remember correctly, I have done this before. So if I say do show IP interface brief, you can see that no, I don't have it. So I can configure it right now. I just say interface VLAN 1, and as soon as I create this interface, the interface is going to go down. This means that the interface is going to be shut down, so you need to say no shut in here, and then the interface is going to come up. What I need to do is to assign an IP address for them. So what is your network's IP address? You need to ask it from the network administrator. Or if you are the network administrator, you already know that. My network is 192.168.100 subnet. You can see this in my browser because I have connected to here using this network. So I'm just going to set this as an IP address in here. So what I'm going to do is to say IP address is going to be 192.168.100, and let's say that for this one is going to be 201, and this is a 24-bit network mask, so that's going to be 255.255.255.0. So I have now set this IP address, so let's just save this. If I say do show IP interface brief, you can see that I have this interface. It is up and running. Okay, what is my gateway? I already know that. So if I try to reach that, I can just ping. So I can say ping. My gateway, of course, is going to be do ping. Or let's just go to privilege mode. That's going to be easier. I don't have to repeat do every time. So I'm just going to say ping. Ping is a very good tool to reach to different parts of the network or even outside of the network. I'm just going to say ping 192.168.102. This is my default gateway. I need to have reachability to this part of the network, and you can see that I do have reachability. What is this next? This first dot here. The first dot means that I didn't have access to 192.168.102. Why? Because I didn't have the MAC address of that. But I did an ARP, and by the response of the ARP, I did have the MAC address of that destination, and the rest of the pings now are successful from now on. and there would be no problem until I have purged my MAC address table. Okay, so now that I have this, can I reach to other parts of the network? Can I reach, for example, to Google websites? If I try to say ping, let's say 8888, which is the DNS server of Google, and hit enter, it says I don't have any route to there, so that's going to be able to send your packets outside. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now configure a default gateway. Like I said, there are multiple ways, but one of the easiest one, of course, on switches is going to be IP default gateway command. And after that, you're supposed to type in the gateway IP address of your network. My network, like I said, is 192.168.102. This means that any packet that I don't have any route for that, I need to send it to this network. Now let's just say show IP route. If I type show IP route, now I can see that it says there is a connected network in here, that I have it because I have configured this, but it doesn't really show anything about default gateway in here. Okay, let's try to ping 8888 one more time. So if I try to do that, the packet should be sent to 192.168.102. One of the reasons that I told you this might not really work is because of the virtualized environment that I have. So if this doesn't work, there are of course some workarounds that you can use in your lab, but for switches is one of the most important features that you can configure. So IP default gateway is going to be one of the most important configuration. What is the workaround for that? You can configure a route. One of the reasons that I really do not want to configure that, I'm just going to configure that here, but these are layer 3 switches, so they support this command. On layer 2 switches, you might not be able to run this command. So what I'm going to do is to say configure terminal. I'm going to say no IP default gateway, hit enter. So the default gateway configuration is going to go away. I'm just going to say, okay, IP route, and I'm just going to say for any route, I'm just going to use this. Like I said, this is a layer 3 command. We are on a layer 3 switch, so this works in here, but on layer 2 switches, this might not be useful. But again, I'm just going to say 0000 and 0000. This means that any network with any subnet mask, and what is my gateway? That's going to be 192.168.102, and hit enter. This is going to work just fine. Now I'm just going to save configuration. I'm going to say show IP route. This is a static route, so this appears in my routing table, so that is going to work. So I'm just going to say ping 8888. Now the ping is successful and works just fine. Okay, let's do some other stuff on here because we need to do some basic configuration, and there are some of them. One of them is IP domain name. We can configure this on our switches. Okay, and also we can say, okay, my name server is this one and IP domain lookup is configured like this. So what are these and how can we configure them? IP domain name is my domain name. Whatever domain name I have, you can just configure this on that. In here it says netforge.local. This means that I'm not using a specific domain extension which is available on the web. When you say local, this means that none of the extensions on the web. What are the extensions on the web? .com, .co, .org, I don't know, biz. A lot of different extensions are out there. But local is just local, so you don't really use this for external network. You might have an external domain name. Let's say, for example, this is not my domain name, but I'm just saying. Let's say that, for example, my networks has registered alex.com, okay? And this is my domain name. And when I want to use this, if I have some computer servers, stuff that are available from outside, then I need to use that domain name on them. If I have some stuff that are available only for the internal network, then I'm just going to use alex.local. So that is how I use it. So you can just configure this on your switches using IP domain name something. The next one is IP name server. This is very important. I'm just going to show you how we can use this. Okay, let's go back to our topology. And now you can see that we have some access to the outside network using this hash that we did here. So what I'm going to do is to say, okay, I need to be able, and just go back to here. I need to be able to say ping google.com instead of typing the IP address of that. So if I hit enter, it says that it is trying to translate google.com, and because it doesn't have any DNS server available, you know that DNS server is the translator of IP addresses of the names of the devices to the IP addresses, right? Because I don't have anything, it says that, okay, we could not find the host or the address for the IP address for the name that you set, google.com in this case, or protocol not running. You know that protocol is not running, right? So you need to run this protocol. So what I'm going to do is to go to configuration mode. First of all, I'm just going to say IP domain lookup. This means that now the protocol is running. This means that now we are a resolver. We are trying to send the names to a DNS server, but at the same time we need to say what is the DNS server's IP address. So I'm just going to say IP name server is going to be, let's say, 8888. This is the Google DNS. You can have some other DNS servers actually. Maybe you have your own DNS server, okay? So I type this here. So two commands. One of them, IP domain lookup, is necessary. One of them is this one. There is another command that you might confuse with name server, that is IPDNS. IPDNS, as a matter of fact, starts DNS service on your router. You don't really want to do that because DNS, of course, does have a database and has a lot of different features that Cisco router doesn't support that. So you don't really run a DNS service on here unless there is a requirement for that. Okay, so right now this is done. I'm just going to end, save the configuration, and I'm trying to say ping google.com. Now you can see that the ping is going to be successful. Why? Because now I sent all the queries to a DNS server. And what is a DNS server? That is 8888. 8888 replies to us and says that google.com has an IP address of 216.139.38.120. And then we ping this IP address, which is going to be easy. Okay, what else do we have in here? The other one is running SSH for our network. I showed you how you can connect using Telnet, but right now I would say that Telnet is a very good tool, but it is not safe. So what you need to do is to run SSH. And running SSH, of course, is going to be much better. And the higher versions, of course, are much safer. How can you run SSH? First, you need to have a key for SSH because you're going to try to encrypt everything using the key. How can you do that? You're going to type crypto key generate RSA, and that's going to generate a key for you. Let's do that right now. I'm just going to go back to my topology, and in here, I'm just going to go to here. So I'm just going to go to configuration mode. Then I'm going to say crypto key generate RSA, and hit enter. So it says please define a domain name first. One of the reasons that I told you you can have a domain name is based on that domain name you're going to have everything. So okay, so I'm just going to say IP domain name is going to be netforge.local. Notice I have defined the domain name. Based on this domain name, I can generate a key. So I'm just going to say crypto key generate ISA. So it's just going to create a key, and it says, okay, how many bits in the modulus? The ones inside the bracket, of course, is going to be the default. And I guess 512 is going to be okay. But you can go up to 4096, I guess. You can say 2048, and that is very strong and good enough. In my case, 512 is going to be okay. I hit enter, and this is going to generate a key. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to make some changes again. So first of all, I'm just going to say do show run, and I'm going to say include username. I'm just going to see this username. As you can see, I already have a username and a secret. Very good. I have show enable, and we have enable password. I can say, let me see, this is not going to be good. So let's say that no enable password. I'm going to say enable secret is going to be Cisco. Also, if I say do show run section line, so we already have some configurations in here, which is interesting. For example, transport input is going to be SSH, which is nice. This is already there. I can put it there if there is no configuration. Also, it says login. We're just going to say login local. So I'm just going to go to here. I'm just going to say login local. So let's save the configuration and now try to reach to here so you're using SSH. Let's go to here and open a quick connectment window. You can see that in this window I have 192.168.100.201. I believe that this is the IP address of my network in here, and SSH version 2 is selected. And I believe that this is the default in here. So I'm just trying to connect to here. So you can see that this opens here. You might see a new window that says there is a key you should accept and save. If there is such thing, you say accept and save. The username is going to be Cisco, hit enter, and the password is going to be Cisco. So you are right here. Okay, what about the enable password? I'm just going to say en. This is going to ask me for a password. So I have to type the new password for enable, and now I am in. Great. Now we have done this part as well. Let's go back to our slides and see what is left. So let's go here. We save the configuration. I have used WR all the time. WR is an older style type of command. It is kind of represents the write memory command. But write memory, as a matter of fact, has very, very limited capabilities. The actual command, of course, does what we want, but when you say write, of course, we don't have so many capabilities. I'm just going to show you some of them. Let's go back to here, and if I just try to, I'm just going to close this window. I don't really need it. Let's go back to here. If I say write, after that, what do we have for memory? We have write memory, and after that, where can I write the memory? There is just one option, and you can see that is hidden enter. This is going to write the memory to your NVRAM actually, or to your flash, based on the type of the device that you have. But sometimes you want to have more capabilities. If you say copy running config, for example, you can see that there are multiple places that you can save the configuration. You can save it to NVRAM. You can save it to flash. You can save it to different disks that are here. You can even save it to the network using SCP, TFTP, let's say FTP, using HTTP, HTTPS. Different places in the network could be accessing here. And also when you are copying, this is not running config that can be copied, but this can be anything. You can copy erase, which means that it's going to delete all the configuration. You can copy from different disks to different places. You can copy startup config into running config. You can do multiple things using this command. So one of the reasons that we really want to go with this kind of a command is the capabilities that it has for us. But for now, accept that WR is going to be very, very handy command. And most of the time, of course, I configure this everywhere that I see. Okay, some verification commands are going to be very important to understand. One of them is to show the interfaces that we have. You have already seen me doing this here. So if I say show IP interfaces brief, you can see that I am abbreviating as much as possible so that this is going to be a second nature for you. S, of course, is not going to do so well, so better to say SH for show. Hit enter, you can see that all the interfaces that are configured or not configured, they are going to appear in here. Of course, I can pipe it and select them. For example, I can say, for example, I'm just going to, let me see, I'm just going to exclude unassigned interfaces, which means that everything which has no IP address is not going to appear in here. So this is going to be the only thing that has an IP address on there. The other thing that we have is show users, of course. So if I say show users, hit enter, this is going to tell me how many users right now are logged in. Okay, let's try to log in one more time. I'm just going to go to File, going to click Connect, and I'm just going to try to connect to here. Username is Cisco, password is Cisco. Hit Enter, and somebody has logged in using the terminal line, which is the in-band management parse. So if I just go back to here and say Show Users, then you can see that it says we have a connection, and the connection has been over VTY number 2. Okay, so VTY 0 actually. So you can see that we have a connection here, and if I close this connection, I don't really want to have this connection anymore. Go back to here, you can see that this is going to be deleted for me. So how many users are right now logged into this device? You can really figure it out using this command. Okay, so the other thing is there are some mistakes that we might have during the configuration. You saw that when I configured the interface VLANs, I told you that the interface VLANs are going to be shut down by default, and this is kind of universal on every device. This is going to happen. So sometimes you create the interface, you think that this is something like you look back interfaces, and it has to be up and it is down, and when you check, you can see that this is not up, so you have to no shut that. The other thing is using password instead of secret. I showed you that secret is going to be encrypted. Password is going to be clear text. Everyone can read this. So be very careful about that. Skipping domain name before SSH key. I did it and you saw that this is not going to let us to create an SSH key. No saving configuration. You see me, I do everything and then type WR. This is a habit that you're going to grow as well. This is very important to save all the configuration, because yes, it is going to be in the running configuration, but as soon as something happens and the RAM purges or the device reloads or something happens, you're going to lose that configuration that you have done in here. So that's going to cause a lot of problems. Be very careful about that. Okay, so day 11 is almost done. We have spoken about a lot of different things. We named our switch, secured console and VTY, created local users, checked them, configured VLAN 1 IPN gateway, we enabled SSH and saved the configuration, and finally we did a lot of different things. Okay, I hope this has been informative for you. Next time we are going to talk about VLAN, switchport mode, and trunking. Hope to see you in the next video.